Hey everyone, Eric with the Office of Stewardship with our monthly Lunch and Learn. This is Father Anish going to share about how to get storytellers in our parishes to speak on at Stewardship Renewal. One I've found is when peers talk to peers, that can have a good effect, and he's done a marvelous job of finding storytellers to share their personal faith story, their journey into stewardship. And I invited him here to share with us what he knows, so maybe we can get more storytellers during stewardship renewal. So, Father Anish, uh, if you don't mind, tell us where you're at and what you're doing, and then how you're getting these wonderful lay witnesses.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you for having me. Good afternoon to all of you. I am at present in St. Joseph, Ellenwood. As you know, stewardship renewal has different elements like stewardship signing of forms, stewardship homilies, stewardship fair, and stewardship witness sharing. Stewardship witness sharing is very important because these can change hearts, deepen the faith, and also these sharing can really renew our parish life and activities. As you know, witnessing faith is part of our Christian mission. I think in Acts 1:8, Jesus said, "You will be my witnesses." The early church grew because believers shared their experience of Christ in their lives. And every person and every parishioner has a story of how God has worked in their lives. Why lay witness matters? We know people often connect more deeply with personal stories than programs, bulletins, announcements, etc. Sometimes even more than what I stand on the pulpit and on the altar and preach. These kind of stories can influence and inspire. Lay witness testimonies helps people see how God works in ordinary lives, be inspired to grow in their faith, become more involved in parish life, feel less alone in their struggles. Now, two of the people who shared their testimonies, one was about a spouse's illness and the loss of spouse. Another one was about a separation, a divorce happened, and the loss of one of their kids. Now, these kind of things people experience, those who are sitting in the pews also experience. And these people who shared, they told me that after the sharing of these testimonies, many people came and told them that they also went through these lives, these kind of situations in their lives. And these people, they beautifully brought prayer into their lives, how they overcame these kind of situations by prayer life. They beautifully brought out. So people feel less alone in their struggles when they hear these kinds of stories, from people. And it is always said, we hear a story can reach hearts where information cannot. Now, recognizing parish storytellers, who are parish storytellers, parish storytellers may not be excellent or professional speakers. They are ordinary people who can share faith or God experience in their lives. Now, you may know the definition of stewardship. I think it is Bishop John Brungart put it together. Stewardship is a grateful response of a Christian disciple who recognizes and receives God's gifts and shares these gifts in love of God and neighbor. Now, shares these gifts in love of God and neighbor. So these people are sharing their faith. What they are sharing is a moment of conversion, a difficult trial where faith helped, a prayer that changed their life, the meaning of the Eucharist, the role of the parish community, etc. Often, they are quite faithful people sitting in the pews in our midst. Now, what are the signs that we should look for a witness testimony or a powerful story? Look for people who speak sincerely about their faith, have experienced life challenges, show gratitude to God, serve the parish faithfully, or very active in the parish life and parish ministry, inspire others through their example, etc. My one way of finding or looking for people is when I attend a program, a gathering, or an OCA class, I listen some of their stories, then I will think, yeah, he or she is a potential lay witness testimony. I can ask them, but I don't ask them immediately. Uh, I may ask later, immediately I will not ask them. I may wait and ask later. Sometimes I ask staff or council members who can be good sharing of testimony. Inviting them gently is very important. Some people are waiting to be asked. Most parishioners, most people will never volunteer themselves. So a gentle asking is always good. They often think sometimes people think that my story is not important. I am not good at speaking. Someone else could do it better. All these things, normal, And many people say, invitation, asking is always good. I have heard these people say, that they will never come forward unless you approach them or ask them or invite them. Inviting is very important. In my experience, out of the 95 percentage, people agreed to share their testimony. Out of the 95 percentage of the people whom I approached, they agreed to share. Only 5 percentage they said, at this time, I may not be able, only 5%, 95 percentage. For 1 year stewardship renewal, each year I used to get one for English. Now, if there is a bilingual parish, another for Spanish. So one each. So during the COVID time, I was thinking what to do this year's stewardship renewal because we couldn't do so many other things like stewardship fair and all this. So I had this idea, why don't I ask 5 people? We have stewardship 5 pillars: prayer, service, formation, hospitality, and evangelization. So I looked for 5 people for each topic. And by God's grace, we could get five of our parishioners who came forward and shared their testimony. Then the following years, I looked for one school family, one OCA candidate or those who joined the church previous years, and one youth and 2 other random adults or somebody. So I always look. Now this is my goal. I look for one OCA or those who joined the church, one school family, young family or school family, and youth, high school or young adult or youth. So that is the format I now go with. Now, how to invite someone? The best approach is personal and simple, as I mentioned earlier. So I usually ask them, your faith has been inspiring to many of us. Why don't you think about to consider sharing this faith journey with us? Would you consider sharing your story with the parish? And important principles are ask personally, affirm their faith, give them time to think, assure them they will receive help, assure them that we will help them with this. Helping them feel comfortable is very important, and supporting the new witnesses is very, very important. So, meeting them beforehand, helping them organize their story, encouraging them to speak simply, practicing together. All these are important to help them to prepare the sharing of testimony. Remind them they are not giving a speech; they are sharing their faith. Simple things I tell them to ask is, what is your life before, your experience of encountering God, and what is your life now? Keep it simple, honest, personal. And last two weekends we heard the stories of good Samaritan woman and man, blind man being healed. So they had their life before. So they moved from a material life to a spiritual life. So your life before, your life of encountering Christ, or your experience of God, and your life now. So that will be a simple questions they can ask themselves. So I also give guidelines for sharing of stewardship witness talks. What I tell them, in that guidelines, a sheet of paper I write is, a stewardship witness talk is simply a personal sharing of faith, how serving God and others through ministry has touched your life. Your story can encourage others to discover their own gifts and serve the Lord. Suggested questions to reflect on: what led you to serve God and neighbor in this ministry, if they are serving in any of the parish life or ministries? What experience or thought inspired you to begin serving? At first, did you have any obstacle, doubts, or second thoughts? How did you begin? Who encouraged or invited you to get involved? What ministry or ministries are you part of? What keeps you going? What motivates you to continue serving? How has this ministry strengthened your faith or relationship with God? How would you encourage others? What would you say to fellow parishioners who may be thinking about getting involved in the work of Christ in the church? Some important point to consider: no one expects you to be perfect example of faith. In fact, it is often more authentic when people see that you are still growing in faith. Your task is not to tell people to give more money, get more involved, or fill out forms. Simply share what the Lord has done in your life through serving others. Some practical tips: try to write your talk beforehand. The talk should be only 3 to 6 minutes long. When speaking, remember to speak slower and louder than you think you need to. You're welcome to submit a copy of your talk ahead of time if you would like to have feedback. If speaking in the church is new for you, you may practice on the microphone beforehand. Your witness is a gift to the parish community, helping others see how God is working in the lives of ordinary people. Thank you for sharing your story and for your service to the church. I also write the 5 pillars and what they mean. Prayer, I love God. Formation, I love my Catholic faith. Service, I love my neighbor. Evangelization, I love the good news of Jesus Christ. Hospitality, I love you. Now, accompanying is also is very important. I think Pope Francis speaking on in the joy of the gospel, I think on evangelization, the 5 steps: encounter, invite, accompany, bear fruit, and celebrate. So accompanying is very important. helping them and asking them is if is there any need or is there any help needed. So that is very important. Usually, I invite sharing the testimony either after a short homily. Those weekends or those days when we have stewardship sharing, I give only a very short homily. So either I invite after a short homily or just before the final blessing, before the end of the mass. So, what are the fruits of the sharing of this witness talks? When parishioners share their stories, faith becomes more personal, parishioners feel more connected, stewardship grows, new leaders emerge, evangelization becomes more natural. A parish that shares faith stories become a living community of witness. Tangible fruits of this witness sharing. Two of the experiences in my life are we were looking for more money counters. So after this stewardship renewal, when we had signing of the forms, we had more than enough money counters and that we needed. So that is one area that we could, one of the fruits. Another one was after hearing a witness testimony, a person walk into the office telling and giving a stewardship envelope cover tithe, telling after listening that stewardship talk or witness testimony, Father, I feel that I am under tithing. So that was a very powerful testimony. I mean, it was a well prepared and good experience of how God worked in that person's life. So those are some of the fruits that. And another person asked me, Father, who is sharing next weekend? But don't ask me, but who is sharing next weekend? So those are some of the fruits of this witness testimonies during the stewardship renewal. That's all I have. If you have any questions.
Well, I sure do. How do you overcome the people that you invite and they say, "Oh, Father, I could never do that." Like it it always seems like some Catholics don't feel like they're holy enough, or they say enough rosaries, or whatever their thing is, they don't feel good enough or confident enough that their story is important for others. How do you help them through that?
Yeah, that is a good question. I tell them, just consider, take your time, and maybe after 1 week we can visit again. I tell them, encourage them, you just share how you experience God in your lives, or what God has worked in your life, and how you are inspired to do this particular ministry in your life. And I don't force them. I tell them, you take your time, pray about it, think about it, and let us. We will visit after 1 week.
Okay. How do you help or prevent the talk becoming just a list of look at, one of the criticisms of lay witness talks I've heard from in different places is, so and so got up and then they just told us everything they're doing, like they're on this council and they do this and they do that and they show up to mass 15 minutes early or something, it's kind of a look at me type of uh, talk rather than a here's how God and I are getting through this life together talk.
I mean, that is true. There may be some people, do this, but in my experiences, maybe a few who did that way, but most of them they shared their God experiences or how they overcame the various challenges and struggles they had in their lives with the help of God or with a prayer life. I mean, we can tell them, maybe, it is not about you. It is about God's experience in your life.
Do you read the talk ahead of time and
So
give
I
feedback?
I don't force them. I tell these two things. Either you can give me what you are preparing to talk, and also I offer them if you need some practice or if you are not comfortable speaking in front of the microphone, you can come to the church and I can come and you can do the rehearsal or take a practice.
Okay. Um, Out of all the witness talks you've heard, which one's most memorable?
One memorable, as I said earlier, two things very memorable. One is, one person wanted to, one person, she didn't have the money, the regular tithing money, uh, but in spite of she didn't have, because of other expenses, she still went on to put the regular that she used to put in the basket, and she received more in the coming weeks. Another one testimony I was inspired by was one person said how he struggled with the loss, separation of the spouse, and loss of one of the children, but how prayer helped that person. He was always bringing in that prayer life and God into that talk very often. That was inspiring.
Yeah. And you say that you're getting feed. I wrote down a note here that you had someone say, "Father, who's speaking next week?"
Yeah, I mean,
Which
so
that's
after,
remarkable.
yeah, after hearing the testimonies, because that 1 year, I mean, this past few years, I used to line up five each. So after a couple or after third one or fourth one, one person, Father, who is giving? Don't ask me, but who is giving
Yeah.
next week? Yeah.
Yeah, that's something. People are really connecting to each other, aren't they?
Yes, yes, because these struggles they face, everybody, all of us face the same thing. Not if not
Oh,
the
sure.
same thing, it's like loss, sickness, these kind of things we all face. If not the same level, but we all face, and people listening in the pews, they also go through, because two of the people who shared this kind of things, they came and told me, Father, after sharing, many people came and told me that they also went through these kind of challenges in their lives. That was
Yeah.
uplifting, that person who shared. And
Yeah. Have you ever had a witness talk that maybe didn't kind of circle around loss or struggle?
um, one or two, it took a lot of time, you know even though I told them 3 to 6 minutes,
Yeah.
but sometimes it happens.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right. Well, that's all the questions I have. You answered for me, and I thank you for sharing all your great knowledge and your tips, because I've been a long believer that these can be a good thing when done well, and it sounds like you
it
shared with us how you're doing it well. So
It
I'm
has been
grateful for
for
that.
me, at least for me, it has been. Yes, I can say for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, for those of you watching, there will be a replay going out via email, and I'll also post this to the stewardship website at dcdiocese.com or .org, and you can rewatch it there. Um, can Do you have any resources you could share with us?
I can maybe the guidelines that I
Yeah, maybe
usually
if you
give to
got that.
people. That will be a right. These guidelines I collected from my previous parishes and previous predecessors. Those pastors who have been there before me. I collected.
Sure,
Coordinated. Yeah, so I can email to you that.
that'd be great. All right. Well, and then for those of you watching, you can look for those as well. Father Anish, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.